and welcome to Sharin Stories. I am your host, Sarah, with my two beautiful and smart co-hosts, Peaks and the Real St. Paul. This is not a therapy session. You will not find mental health professionals here, nor are we a substitute for said people. We are just regular people sharing and hopefully normalizing our stories with mental health. Today, we are so happy to have our good friend Sally Salzer here on the podcast. She is a member of the Empowered Women's Society, a perinatal mental health specialist, a breastfeeding counselor, and a mother to the cutest first grader and rabbit. On top of all of this, she recently founded Sally Sunshine Finds, which you can find at Sally Sunshine Finds on Instagram, a vintage thrifted store, which I've literally already bought maybe like 7 things from. She's an amazing human with a generous heart, and we are thrilled to have her on the podcast today.
That's so sweet of you. I didn't even know you were going to mention the little shop. That's so fun.
I mentioned your little shop and Basket the rabbit.
Yeah.
You'll have a chance to plug it at the end too, so we'll get as much airtime on that shop as possible.
It's the best.
So yes, I'm Sally. I'm a mom to a little 6-year-old girl who's awesome. I'm also a breastfeeding counselor through the WIC program, which, if everyone's not familiar, it's a program that helps underprivileged women and children, pregnant women, and then postpartum women, and then children up to the age of 5. So that's what I do during the day. I am also a certified perinatal mental health specialist. So that's a certification I got actually during the pandemic in May. I sat for the exam, which was wild. It got postponed like multiple times, but it's all good now. So that's also one of my credentials. And right now I am still working from home doing the breastfeeding stuff and being a mom. And I'm kind of thrown back into a role that I lived when my daughter was little, being a stay-at-home mom. So it's kind of fun to talk about that mental health aspect because I'm kind of thrown back into it now. So yeah, that's me. Do you guys want me to start my story now?
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
I love it.
Okay. So honestly, I could probably write a freaking book. I have so much to share. But my mental health journey probably goes back all the way to when I was really young, probably 2. I would say, which is really crazy to think about now, especially because I have a daughter. Our memories are a really wild thing. And when I was 2 years old, my parents were not together, and they went through a custody battle for me. I did not know my dad at this point, just knew my mom. And the judge actually ordered like visitation with my dad, who I did not know. And obviously that's like pretty traumatic for a 2-year-old who's, not known somebody. So I had to go with my dad, who I didn't know. And it's funny because I actually do remember those visits, which is really wild to think about. But I remember those visits, and I remember like certain things, like just crying, really, like just being really stressed that I wanted my mom. And I was only 2. And eventually, I'm not sure the timeline of this exactly, but when I went back with my mom after one of the visits, I actually had a patch of my hair missing. And, my family was like, what's going on here? Nobody really knew what had happened. So after going to the doctors and all of that, it turns out that I developed an autoimmune disorder called alopecia. Which is a hair loss autoimmune disorder. So if you guys don't know anything about autoimmune, it's basically your body attacking itself in one way or another. So basically my hair follicles like were attacking themselves. So my hair didn't grow. So all my hair fell out when I was really young, when I was 2. And it was fine. I mean, I was 2. It didn't really matter.
Right.
Until obviously I started school. And in kindergarten, like I remember being bullied, being made fun of pretty much all the time. Kids are really mean, like really, really mean. And like I said, memory is a really crazy thing. And now that I have a child, like I'm even more conscious of it because I remember really a lot of traumatic things like that from a really young age. So obviously I was really bullied. You can imagine a child with no hair in school is like someone to pick on, just somebody who's different. And honestly, it really didn't bother me that much. I was a kid. I didn't really care. I loved who I was. I really didn't bother me that I didn't have any hair. I wore hats. I loved wearing my little hats and my bandanas and whatever I wore. And I was a very confident, happy child, and it didn't really affect me. It's funny because I have a sister who is 10 years older than me, and she actually remembers me not being affected by it. Like she, would always say, my sister Sally is always made fun of, and she comes off the bus and tells me these stories, and I ask her, well, are you okay? And I was always just fine. And I think that's really interesting, and it goes along with how I am as an adult too. I really don't ever care what people think about me, and I never did as a child, and I still really don't as an adult, but those memories still live deep inside of me. So I think, again, bringing up memory, we suppress it as adults, but it doesn't really go away. So I think, as a child, I was always happy. It didn't really affect me. But it was always there on some level. But I was always able to kind of just move past it. So that was when I was really young. When I was in 8th grade, I think it was, I made the decision that I finally wanted hair. I never did up until that point. Like my mom would take me places and everybody would, want me to get it. And I just didn't care. I just was like, whatever. I love myself. I don't need it. It was kind of everybody else that like really made it seem like I needed it. But eventually as I got older, I was like, okay, I'm growing up. I kind of want it. I want to be like, other girls. And that's kind of when my confidence got a lot better, of course. It was great. I, finally started to feel like other people and didn't always have like that feeling of that people were looking at me. Not that I really cared, but it was, it was something that was there and present in my life. So that helped with my confidence. But also at that point is when anxiety really started to increase. Now, obviously, middle school is usually when women get their menstrual cycle. So that probably correlated a lot with it too. But my anxiety was like insane at this point. Like, and nothing to do with my hair. That was just like, some backstory for you guys. But yeah, my anxiety got really bad in middle school and then into high school. In high school, honestly, those memories are a blur. I don't know if you guys like kind of feel like that too, but like my high school memories like are not as good as my other years. I don't know why that is.
I
Sarah,
totally agree.
like
I totally agree. I wish I could remember more and I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Not
I say
alcohol.
I'm saying the opposite. I have a very good recollection of like high school and maybe middle school, but I don't remember much of before that. But I definitely do remember some things, which I'm excited to talk about.
I loved high school, but I also feel like I try to forget it sometimes. But I really did like it, I think. I don't know. It must be some like sort of weird thing that happened in my mind that like wanted to erase it. Yet I remember having such a good time. So I don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know. I think about memory a lot because there's just some things that I don't like years that I'm like, I don't know what I was doing. I also missed a lot of high school. So I know, Sarah, you mentioned that when you talked about your story, and probably a lot of that was due to mental health issues, depression, anxiety, things like that, hormones going crazy. But I missed a lot of high school. Sarah and I were in choir together, which and theater, which I put a lot of my energy into. And actually before that I was a cheerleader.
Oh yeah.
And I quit that shit, man. I loved it when I was younger. Like I loved it. And then I got to high school and I was like, wow, these bitches really need to calm down. I was like, you guys are so mean. Like I just straight up quit. Like I just left and never came back. Like I could not take it. It was so wild to me. And it was at that point that I switched over. I was like, okay, I'm not part of this crew anymore. Like I can't do this. And I literally straight up like left and never came back. Like I didn't even tell anyone, which was probably like unprofessional, but I was like, you guys are really mean. I can't do this. And then I went into, I was always a singer, growing up, but the theater stuff I never really did. So I moved over to that crew and kind of built a new friend base, built like new passion, more healthy relationships. Not so much like pressure in the way that cheerleading was. I'm sure you guys can imagine the difference. Sarah knows.
Yeah.
And that was really great. I loved doing all of that. I really thrived, became really passionate about acting, about singing, really kind of found my place and really built my confidence that way. There was a lot of anxiety with that too, because obviously singing in front of people and acting in front of people is like you're being judged. So there was that. But really, I kind of thrived in that environment. And I actually decided to go to college for music, which is never something I thought I would do. So I left home, went to college in Rochester for music therapy, actually. So not performance, because that was like too anxiety inducing for me. I loved it, but being judged like that was like really just too much. Like I knew I was good. I didn't really like that wasn't a question in my mind, but like then you don't get picked for something and it's like really hurts your ego. So I was like, no, I'm going to go. I really was passionate about helping people and I loved music. So that was where I ended up. While I went to college, my first time away from home, and I was a singer. I never played an instrument. In my first semester, I had to learn guitar, piano, and percussion on top of my vocal stuff. And my anxiety was literally never worse. I was like, I am actually going to have a heart attack here. This is not normal. Like I was just a singer, I didn't like playing an instrument when you're an adult is like a real challenge. So then my anxiety went crazy again. And then I partied real hard in college and didn't show up to music class and wasted a ton of money. And then like cried and went home after one semester.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Sarah, yeah, you like just up and quit. Like, this is not
Bye.
me. Gotta go. and it's funny. I actually, that's just my personality really, is I'm just like very impulsive. I think it's more just like, I remember listening to your episode, Andrew, and you were like, I can't make a decision for anything. That's like not me. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I'm out of here. Like, F all of you. Got it. Like, I'm all good. So it wasn't really like sad to leave school. I was just like, okay, like this is too much. I gotta go home. And Sarah, I know you were the same way. Like you were like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happened. I came home. This is when it gets like really exciting, my story.
Ooh.
It's been exciting. I'm on the edge of my seat.
So I go home to Buffalo, and I decide to just enroll at Buff State for like general studies, whatever. Best decision I've ever made, by the way. I think, people like when you're in high school, people who do that you think are like don't have it together. You're like, oh, you don't have a major? But actually that's like the smartest thing to do.
Yeah.
Because nobody really
absolutely.
knows what they want to do at 18. But anyways, so I did that, completed all my general stuff. And then I decided that I wanted to travel. So I just kind of decided one day I wanted to go to India. And I started researching it and looking it all up. And I just was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to study abroad. But before I study abroad, I'm going to volunteer for an organization for a month. So whatever, I do all that, put down all the deposits, get into this school, book my flights. Like I'm like just going by myself, like literally know nothing. And everyone thinks I'm nuts. And I was just like, I don't know. I think it's going to be fine.
Wow.
And well, I mean, it was fine until I found out I was pregnant.
Boom.
Yeah. So
There it is.
happened. Oh, and by the way, my plane ticket was for 6 months. So this wasn't like a short trip. Like I had a booked flight. And actually my return flight was like a week before my due date.
Oh my gosh.
So I found out I was pregnant. Let's see. I found out I was pregnant, I think at the end of July of 2013. And I was supposed to leave for India in October. And I found out I was pregnant. I was just it was a month before I turned 20. So obviously young. And I'll never forget the moment that I took that pregnancy test. I actually I probably shouldn't be sharing this, but I made myself a gin and tonic. I got home from work. I made myself a gin and tonic, and I had the pregnancy test in the bathroom, and I literally took like half a sip, and I was like, okay, I need to just go do this. And I went and I took it, and I like peeked over like the bathroom, like it was gonna jump out at me or something, and it did. It totally jumped on me. And yeah, I found out I was pregnant, and I just like fell to the floor and like thought I was going to die. Like I actually thought I was going to die. Now I should also say I never wanted children. Like ever. Yeah. I was like I wanted to travel. I was like just my own person. A lot like you were saying in your story, Andrew. Like I just wanted to travel. I wanted to get away from everyone and just like do my own thing. So this was like a real kick to the gut. Like I was like not happy. I was like, really scared and upset. Because I was just like, holy shit. First of all, I'm 20. Second of all, I just booked a flight to India for 6 months, which is expensive. Third of all, I didn't even want to be a mom. Like I was just like, what's happening? So yeah, I was dating, Dave, who I'm still with. Sorry, I hate to, break that so quickly. I should have built up some suspense.
Spoiler.
But I was dating the guy at the time, but I wasn't really planning on staying with him. I was going to India. I was like, this is gonna be like just whatever.
Is he gonna be watching this?
No. Everything I send him, he just ignores. But yeah, this I should say. We had only been dating for a month at this point.
Oh.
So okay.
Lots of layers.
Okay. I did have a little wine, so I need to remember.
Let's keep unraveling those layers then.
So yeah, we'd only been dating a month. I found out I was pregnant. Terrified, totally freaked out. And actually, when I found out, my boyfriend Dave was actually in New York City at the time. He's from New York City. He was in New York City visiting friends or something. And I was at his apartment watching his dog for the week that he was gone. And so I took the test and I didn't say anything, just totally panicked on my own, like cried all night. And then he came back like 3 days later. And I had this whole plan to like not blurt it out right away, but that didn't happen. I like picked him up and he's like, how are you? I miss you so much. And I was just like, and he just like went white in the face and we just like didn't say anything. And then we went grocery shopping and didn't talk about it. We were just both like dying. So we didn't talk about it. And my anxiety was crazy at this point, like crazy. Now I was probably like 6 weeks pregnant, maybe at this point. So like really early. So they don't even like see you. Like I called the doctor's office like the next morning and I was like, I'm pregnant, please help me. And they were like, okay, like we'll schedule you an appointment in like 3 weeks. And I was like, no, I need to like come tomorrow. Like I need somebody to help me. Like I didn't even know what I was going to do at that point. I just was like, could somebody like see me, check me out, make sure this is real. But no, they don't even see you that early. So I had to wait. And then I went through like the whole, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to keep this baby? So I guess trigger warning, abortion talk happening now.
I am all for it, 100%.
Just the talk.
I'm in.
So at first I was like, I'm going to have an abortion. Like I'm not doing this. Like I don't want to be pregnant. And it's funny because, I think people have this idea in their head that abortion is just like some really easy decision that's just like done. Bye, baby. Like, and in my head, I actually thought it was like that for a while until it happened to me. And I was like, oh my God. So first of all, I called and made the appointment. That was way more difficult than I thought. Like, because you have to like say the words out loud. Then it's real again. And yeah, so I made the appointment. It wasn't for like 2 weeks or something. So I have to sit with this feeling for a while. And meanwhile, my boyfriend was really not supportive at that point. Like I said, we'd only been together for a month. We didn't really know each other like at all. And I was leaving. I was supposed to go to India. Like it wasn't part of the plan at all. So both of us were obviously really shocked. He didn't want me to have the baby. Not necessarily that he didn't want to have the baby, but more like we didn't know each other enough to have a baby together. So So yeah, both of us were just like, we can't do this. So I made the appointment. You know, it was for like 2 weeks down the line or something, having massive panic attacks like every single day, like can't breathe, like heart racing all day long, just constantly thinking about it. And ultimately, since you guys heard my intro, I did have my daughter, which is amazing. And I'm so grateful that I did. But it's just not a decision that I could go through. And I do want people to know how hard that decision is for women to make. I always thought that it was going to be like really easy, you know, because people, you know, make you think like, oh, people just use it as birth control and whatever, but it's really not like that. It's a really emotional and difficult decision. And I was not in a financial position to have a baby. Obviously, I was going to India. I'd only been with this guy for a month. You know, I wasn't even living with him. I don't even know where I was living at the time, honestly. I was 20. Like there were so many things that were like, I'm not supposed to have this baby. But ultimately in my heart, I knew that I just couldn't go through with not having her. So I made the decision to have her. Dave still really wasn't on board, but was supportive and in some way. He was mostly terrified for family reasons, telling his family comes from a very religious family. And so he was really nervous about that part of it. So I decided to have my daughter. You know, my pregnancy goes along. I had some complications in the beginning. I was on bed rest. But I decided to have her, and, you know, I start to get excited. The anxiety kind of like subsides now that I've made a decision. But the interesting part of this is one of the reasons why I had so much anxiety is because I really wanted to go to India. I was really upset that I was going to miss that opportunity. And I really didn't want to miss that. So I kind of like convinced my doctor to still let me go. I like begged them. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm not going to go for 6 months, but like, I have to go. Like, I have to go for me because I didn't necessarily want to be pregnant. But I'm making the decision to have this baby, but I'm also myself. And I also really want to go. Like, I need to do this for me. Like, I couldn't be happy with my decision to have my daughter if I canceled my plans. Like, it was just so upsetting. So I convinced my doctor to let me go for a month. So I convinced them to let me go for a month, and I was going to just volunteer and then come home. Now, if you know anything about pregnancy, the beginning of pregnancy really sucks. And you can be really sick. So I was like 13 weeks pregnant or something at the time. And I decided to go to India.
Oh my God.
Sarah, are you taking notes right now?
Who are you?
Fuck it. Go to India.
Sally, that is like so courageous. I don't even know what to say. Like, of all the places too, like someplace very far away, like
food is not going to play with your stomach the first couple of weeks because it's so different. Like,
no, it was a bad choice. I'm not gonna lie. It didn't turn out good for me.
Oh, it didn't? Oh no.
No.
I was really hoping this is like gonna be like a really great
No, it wasn't good, but I was excited. You know, I was like really happy about it. So yeah, I went 27-hour flight.
Oh my God.
Just horrible. Just disgusting in so many ways. I was so sick, and I was sick and really tired, and eventually I made it there. Really sick though, like vomiting.
Oh no.
But yeah, I made it there, and I slept for a while, and I eventually came out of the fog of that travel. And I woke up in India, and it was pretty terrifying. But I was happy, and I was with like all these other volunteers, and it was good. I ended up feeling better, and I was fine. Um, I actually only ended up being there for I think a week, because I had trouble with my visa.
Ooh.
I know, it was really wild. I mean, this is why you really can't make decisions when you're that young. And yeah, there were some things that were not my fault, but so I think I told you guys the plan was to study abroad and volunteer for the first month that I was there. So I actually had a student visa,
Oh.
but I
Oh,
changed
okay.
my plans when I found out I was pregnant
Oh.
to not go to school and just do the volunteer. And they said my visa would be fine still because I was issued a visa. Well, it wasn't fine.
Oh
But they
no.
told me beforehand that it was fine. Well, whatever. It wasn't fine. And I got there, and it was super traumatic. And they were like, you have to like either go register at this school or like, I don't know, figure it out basically. So anyways, it was crazy. I was pregnant. I didn't have time for all of that. And I was like, it's just time to go. So I stayed there a week. I, had my fun and did whatever. I went, and that was what was most important to me at the time. I think a lot of the reason why I had to go was really just about going for me and like doing something that was for me. Like I just needed to go. And especially when I found out I was pregnant, um, I really just needed to still go and commit to myself. So even though it didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to, I have no regrets about that experience. I know I will go back one day and travel probably with my family, which will be even more amazing. But ultimately it just, it didn't work out, which is fine. I have, no regrets about that. So I came home to Buffalo, readjusted. And at this point I was, I think, 18 weeks pregnant or something like that.
Holy shit.
And I started to really like accept the pregnancy at this point. My belly started to show. And then soon I was finding out the gender. And at this point, Dave still really wasn't on board. Like, we weren't really doing that good. And I was just kind of like not interested in entertaining his feelings about the situation because I made the decision to have the baby. So I was like, I'm going to be happy about it. Like you can feel whatever you need to feel, but like I made this decision and I'm going to be excited now. So we found out we were having a girl. And there's actually a video of it. We did like a gender reveal before gender reveals were even cool.
Before they were starting forest fires.
Yeah, like this was like way before. And this is when gender reveals were cool. By the way, let me be clear.
Right. Well, that's good to know.
And we found out we were having a girl. There's a video. And I just start crying, and Dave just looks terrified. Like he looks like he actually just shit himself. I thought I was having a boy the whole time. Like I always called the baby a boy, and yeah. So I think we were just both really, really shocked. And he was terrified. And we went home that night, and I remember like we at this point weren't really happy at this point. But we got home from our little party, and it was the first time he really like showed an emotional connection to the baby. And at that point, like he got on board. Actually, I think it was a few days before Christmas. This was 2013. On Christmas, he finally told his parents. that I was pregnant. So now I had already been, I think,
Present.
5 months pregnant or something. So it was like a while.
Yeah.
Which like obviously upset me, you know, because I felt like, oh my God, are you like ashamed of me or something? And I had no shame. I've never really had.
He just wanted to leave it for a Christmas present, of course.
Right, yeah.
He wanted to give his parents something to be happy about on Christmas.
Yeah,
Oh.
sure. And his parents were thrilled. They were really happy. They were, you know, it wasn't like the reaction that he thought he was going to get. You know, they were happy for him, and they'd never met me. I'd never met them. So
Oh, wow.
you can understand why it'd be shocking. But he told them, and at that point, like, we were good. We were having this baby. We accepted it. And things were great. We got excited. We, you know, our relationship got better. And I pretty much had no anxiety. At this point, I got really excited. I started, you know, researching. I hired a doula, which is like a natural, like a birth coach, basically. I hired a doula, and I was going to have this beautiful natural birth, and I was really excited. And yeah, all was well. And it was April of 2014 that I had my daughter. I did have her completely natural, no meds.
God, that's
nothing.
scary.
No. Well, actually, either way.
It was awesome. And
did it hurt? Is
oh,
it stupid? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sally, I hate to do this and kind of jump into your story right here, but I would love it if we'd have some chance to kind of have a conversation with you and Sarah, and we don't have too much time. So I'm thinking if it's possible, if you could wrap up just kind of the main parts of your story in the next 2 minutes, so then we can open up that discussion a little bit. So we'd have the final 5 minutes together.
Yes. So I had my daughter, and after I had her, I had anxiety like no other. Like anxiety I've never experienced in my life. I got home, breastfeeding was really difficult. And I didn't want to give up on that. So I pushed through all of those struggles, and my anxiety was insane. I wasn't sleeping. My daughter was a really terrible sleeper, like up every hour. It was horrible. I wasn't sleeping. Breastfeeding was really hard, and it was just really, really difficult. Now I had people that, like, you know, people say they're gonna come over and like visit you and stuff, but like they do for like the first 3 days, and then like nobody comes and sees you again.
Oh
And,
my God.
really, like the first 3 days are like really horrible. Like, don't visit me actually, because like I'm dying. Like bring food and like drop it off at the door, but like I'm like not well in here. So like, I don't know. I think people just like really don't understand what women go through postpartum. And like the first week especially is like really not a time for visitors. So PSA.
Yeah, just so everyone knows.
Everybody. So I had a really hard time. And I had really bad anxiety, but I didn't really know I had anxiety. I just thought like this was motherhood. Like this is it. And it manifested, it kept going, but I just kind of lived with it. Like I kind of just went on autopilot. I wasn't sleeping. Like I said, my daughter never slept ever. And I was waking up to nurse her every 2 hours. And so I was just kind of like in a zombie mode of like motherhood, and I didn't really know what was happening. I just kind of coasted through my days and had panic attacks all the time, but just like kind of accepted it as like my new life. But that's not normal. And I didn't really know at the time. So I'm sure you guys have heard of postpartum depression. It's like the most common mental health disorder amongst women. But I had postpartum anxiety, which is different. But it's just not one that people talk about. And so I just didn't even know I was experiencing it. Like, had no idea that this was happening to me. I just kind of lived with it. I wasn't depressed at all. I really wasn't sad at all. I just was really, really anxious. And just, yeah, I just felt very overwhelmed all the time. And it actually wasn't until my daughter was 15 months old that I finally got help. And it wasn't from my OBGYN. My OBGYN actually looked at me and was like, "You really feel that way?" Like, confused.
What?
And it like really upset me. And I was like, because it took me a long time to build up the courage to like ask for help.
Yeah.
And my OB was just like, "Really?" Like, I don't know if it was because I was so far postpartum or what it was, but she just wrote down a number on a piece of paper and like handed it to me and was like, "Okay, call this person," like whatever. I never called that person, obviously. And then I had my annual checkup with my primary doctor, and I told her what I was going through, and she was really helpful. And she put me on meds right away, because at this point I was like really too far gone. And I just think that at a certain point with mental health, medicine may be the only option to get your hormone and your chemical balances in place, because I was just not at a point at that time to even consider therapy. Like, I really just like had massive anxiety that needed to be resolved. Like, I couldn't function. And I still wasn't sleeping. So that's like a huge factor in that. So I was on medication for about a year, and things got a lot better for me. I was like finally enjoying being a mom. And things were really great. I was on my medication for a year. I was able to wean off of it. And then I came out of the fog, and I was able to enjoy motherhood and like love my daughter. The first year of her life was sadly missed because I was I was just on autopilot. I don't really remember a lot of it because the anxiety was so bad. And I know we talked in the beginning about memory. And I think sometimes when your anxiety is so bad, like you like almost black out from it. I know you guys are shaking your head. Like, I think it just, with mental health, like if it's so bad, like your memory just like pushes it so far back. Like it just is all a blur. And sadly my daughter's first year of life is, I don't remember a lot of it, which is sad. And, I've had to heal through that, but, I did get help, and I'm grateful for my doctor, who was not my OBGYN, sadly. But, they really helped me, and I got through it. And, in the end, I became really passionate about helping moms. And that's kind of where I am today. So my story's crazy. There's a lot to it.
Many different layers.
So there's a lot. There's really a lot.
It does come full circle though at the end. I mean, you really do. You're so generous in like what you put out into the world. And I know that you empower moms in whatever community you're a part of. Like, I see it through your social media and stuff like that. And I think that's like extremely, I mean, this isn't news that is public yet, but it will be after this airs. And is that, well, hopefully everything goes well, but I'm newly pregnant, and I just feel kind of like what you explained in the beginning, like how when you find out you're pregnant, you call your doctor, or at least I call my doctor right away, expecting someone to be there to take an appointment to tell me what to do. And that person isn't there for you yet because they won't see you. Mm-hmm. And I get why, and I understand all of that, but like that does not help you as a human feel any sort of and they say like the first trimester is extremely hard, and Also there's a lot of potential loss and things that might happen. And I feel like without a sort of support system, it's extremely difficult to go through alone. And you're not even advised to tell people yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I really want to tell people because I actually want help.
Need help, yeah.
Like I need help.
Well, and you call your doctor too, and you might obviously, like, whatever your choice is, if you want to have the baby, not have the baby, whatever. But a lot of times when women are calling, they might not want to have the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe don't answer the phone and say like, oh my God, congratulations, we'll see you in 3 weeks. Like that's not helpful, really at all. And even if you do want to keep the baby, which a lot of women do, you might need to still talk to someone right away.
Right.
So it's just not reassuring.
There's a lot of systems in place that are really difficult to get through. Even when you do choose to have an abortion, there are things that work against your mental health when you make the decision to do so, even if it's at a clinic like Planned Parenthood, there are still obstacles put into place, such as such as like consultations that where they show you your ultrasound, even though you've already decided to abort. They show you pictures of what's inside of you, which is obviously meant to make you feel some sort of way. And like these sorts of things, it's just crazy. Like, I mean, really, I think I just wrote a paper on this, but I think, women should be offered support rather than guilt in that sort of situation. But the United States does not want it to be that way. So, and I understand, like what you said, abortion is not a decision, or to have or not have a child. Family planning is not a decision that's made like that.
Right.
Like it's just not.
People think that. I don't know why, but
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it's how it's presented, Sally. That's how you kind of thought it was. It's just how it's presented, right? We just make it seem the society and, whoever is making these decisions and putting it out there presents it in a way that is like it's just an easy decision for you.
Right.
I think it comes from like back in the day where it's just like everything is so planned. Like you don't get pregnant until you get married. So when you do get married, everything's planned. Like you have a whole plan already before you get that. So you have the support system, and that's why I think you guys are saying that you don't talk to anybody for 3 weeks because they expect like your partner to be right there by your side to talk to you. Like, so it comes from that old school kind of like, like style. So yeah, I mean, I guess it comes from that because, that's how it is. And, back in the day. So I guess, that's how it's supposed to be now. But now it's just like, everybody's very curious and like, and the thing's really planned. So yeah,
things have changed. With that though, I got to be honest. I've just kind of thought of a little idea because I think this needs to keep going. I think you guys need to keep having this conversation, but we do not generally go past this point. So what I'm thinking we do is after this episode comes out, we ask our listeners, anybody to new moms that have been on for a while, any sort of person or female out there who has dealt with this healthcare system and these kind of things to shoot in questions. And the two of you can just kind of have an one-off episode where you kind of have this conversation about it. I sat here and I just can listen. It's all I can do. I know it's all I can do, and that's the whole point of us. But I do want this conversation to continue. It's just the timing doesn't really allow it. So if I'm asking our listeners or anybody to kind of shoot in these questions that you might have, and you'd love to hear Sally and Sarah talk more about it, I would love to hear so much more from Sally. If I had the time, I could ask you 1,000 questions I have written down right now, just out of and just whatever.
I have a big story. I have a lot, so I do apologize for that.
Don't worry about it. That's not a problem.
It's worth the listen.
I mean, I can have a whole episode talking about motherhood and all of that, but I do feel like the background of growing up with anxiety and having that as a precursor for a perinatal mental health disorder is really important to note because it does increase your chances a lot. And I should have known that. And my doctor should have known that. And they didn't. Or they didn't address it. So like all of my history with mental health should have given my doctors a warning. I should not have been so shocked for what my postpartum experience was. I really shouldn't have. Nobody should be shocked. Like everyone should know that this exists. 1 in 7 women have a perinatal mental health disorder after they have a baby. That's like a really big number. So people really need to know and be prepared. And it's not to scare people to like not have a baby, because I love my daughter and we have an amazing life. But if you get help and you know about it, you can enjoy your child's life and enjoy motherhood. You know, like I said, I missed my daughter's first year because I was so out of it. So if you get help and you know ahead of time, hopefully you won't miss things that are important. And that's really kind of the main message of you know, my postpartum story.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, for your vulnerability and everything. I mean, I say it every time, but we always learn something new about each other, even if we've known each other for years. And I really, I'm really just,
This was an unbelievable listen. This was a fantastic listen, a story that the honesty was unbelievable, blew my mind. We thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And with that, thank you all for listening and watching. Please send in questions for Sally and Sarah. I'm so excited. We just heard the news about Sarah this morning for us. I'm excited. I'm gleaming ear to ear. Sally just, like she said, wasn't trying to scare her, though it may have a little bit.
My face for most of it was like, oh, what?
She'll be okay.
She will be. And thank you so much. You guys have a good night.